like,
about my daughter?
no.
Now he starts recording after she's delivered such a
Yeah.
passionate
For
explanation.
some reason,
Way
the
to go,
system
Bob.
just takes forever.
Yeah, thank you
So,
very much.
my daughter spent uh, several years, I believe, with the VA. She's got a doctorate in psychology,
Mhm.
and uh, she left there. She said it was one of the hardest jobs she ever had in her life.
Mhm.
That the amount of suicide amongst veterans is overwhelming. They say there's roughly 25 veterans a day that commit suicide. And you can imagine as a psychologist, her having to meet with veterans and how difficult it was. Um, a lot of times they would. So what happens is a lot of the veterans go into retirement and not necessarily just having totally spent their entire time in the service, but what happens is they might have been in Vietnam or something like that. They come back, um, they get regular jobs, and then they go into retirement, and all the negative stuff of Vietnam and battles bubbles up to the surface,
Yeah.
and from that's when they become suicidal. So it doesn't
Yeah.
even they spent their entire time in the service. They just happen to be in a war zone that it all comes back. So
I'm
um,
guessing part of the reason it comes back is because they have all this time on their hands after they retire.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. They get time on their hands, and then idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle minds are the devil's workshop, and you start thinking these negative things, and then it errs to the negative, and that's when people become suicidal.
Yeah,
Carrie,
I
I'm
also think it's a major generational thing too,
Sure.
because until the mid 2000s, mental health wasn't really talked about within the service members.
gonna,
It was kind of like you have to deal with this, and what you're seeing, everybody's dealing with it. And it
Yep.
just became like it all came into one. And I'm a really firm believer, and I've heard plenty of stories. Unfortunately, like I've been on scene of like having to respond to like suicides and like helping families like get out of their homes, and so like
Yep.
I've kind of seen that like negative side of it.
Yep.
But a lot of the guys that I've worked with, even like Gulf War guys, are like, oh, I have all these issues and I don't know how to describe them. And I'm
Exactly.
working with them and they perfectly describe PTSD. And they're like, no, I don't have PTSD. Like my friends like killed themselves over like this. And it's like, no, no, it's you're describing it just because it doesn't fit the norm of what you think it is, doesn't mean it's not. And it's just, I don't think people understand that no two service members have the same story, even if they're were on the same deployment in the same unit, platoon. Like break it down as like far as you want it to go, they're not going to have the
Look,
same
Harry,
experience.
it
I tell
also depends upon the support system that each one will have as well.
you
That can
bet,
affect the,
you bet.
but the
Yes,
other,
absolutely.
I always tell people I have PTSD,
yeah.
Mhm.
post-traumatic spousal disorder.
But getting
So
back
you can
to, I have
share
a
that with
question
your
for you,
husband.
Carrie. I have a question. The people who go to the mountain, do you find there's a higher correlation of them that served in Afghanistan? Because in Iraq, you don't have many mountains, but in Afghanistan, you do. And some other secret missions they may have been on where they had mountains as part of their camping out or whatever. So that's why they gravitate towards that.
That could very well be a part of it, but I've worked with plenty of like older men too that were part of Vietnam that were just kind of like, I just need to get away. I would see a lot more drug use coming out of people who were in like the Vietnam era.
That's,
Um,
that's not surprising because they did a lot of. That's when the marijuana was coming out and everything else. That's when it became the in thing to do.
Let's put it this
yeah.
way. I've been out of the service for 53 years. So I'm a Vietnam era veteran, although I did not go to Vietnam.
Mhm.
I ended up
Excuse me.
out of luck of the draw. I was in the Navy. I went through boot camp, went up to San Francisco to a island called Treasure Island, which was a naval base. And out of 1,000 guys, 999 of them went to Vietnam, and I got my orders to go to Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah, I also like, do you find people that didn't go to Vietnam that were in the Vietnam era felt guilt because they were stationed
Sure,
stateside instead
sure,
of being
sure, sure.
overseas with their
Sure.
friends?
Yeah,
Because
yeah. It's all these little entanglements of our lives is kind of incredible. So I spent 3 years on active duty in Norfolk, Virginia. I worked for NATO. I worked for Alexander Haig, if you know that name.
He's too young.
Too young.
He's too young.
Okay,
Seriously.
well, he became Secretary of State, I think.
No, well, he's
He
Secretary
ran
of
a
State. He's also Secretary General of NATO.
right, right. And I reported to him on his base in Norfolk, Virginia. And I had 2 levels above top secret. I mean, it was a very, very confidential base. I used to see nuclear weapons come onto this base. You know, a nuclear weapon is not all that big.
Mm-mm.
So, I mean, it was kind of incredible. We had our facilities had no windows on them whatsoever, and we had Marines that patrolled these bases, and even our where we were located, they would they were there with shotguns, whatever they were, M16s. So, you know, it was highly, highly confidential. I used to see, this is one of the things I always love talking about. When I was in, there was an East Germany, right? And I used to see the spy reports from East Germany, and they'd say, reliable sources say. They wouldn't even say where they were coming from, but we knew it. We just knew all the facts and figures. So different lifestyle way back when. See the gray in my beard? I dye it. I dye it gray.
Yeah.
So, Carrie, did you serve in the military? And if you did, what branch?
did not.
Okay.
My stepdad was in the military, and I always said I would never marry someone in the military because I hated moving around. I hated all the stuff that came with it. And then I met my husband at a bar that I never should have been at. And
You know, this is so
I,
funny because this
Never heard
all
that
kind of
story
makes
before.
sense. You,
yeah,
you kind of
I,
you kind of figure this out.
Wait, why shouldn't you have
yeah.
been? Wait. I got inquiring minds want to know. Why shouldn't you have been at that bar?
So it was like a Western bar, and on Wednesday night you could go if you were 18 and up, you could go in there dancing.
Square dancing.
And so yeah, so me and my friends would like to go square dancing, and I met him within 5 minutes of walking in the door, and I refused to be a statistic, and so I like just held on forever, and I was just like 2 years later, he wore me down. And we got married.
You're
So
adorable.
you were really young when you got married.
I was 21. So we
Oh,
met
okay, I
when
was
I
gonna
was
say 20.
18. Yeah, yeah. We met when I was 18, almost 19, and then we
Okay.
got married when I was 21.
Wow. How old are you now?
Go.
30.
You're 30. You're 30 years old.
I know you don't look it. You could.
You don't look it at all.
I know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you look young enough to
Yeah.
be asked to the senior prom.
If your husband ever argues with you, tell him to call me.
Yeah. Yeah, we had an internet issue a while ago. My husband has like a beard. He's bald. And they came and he was like, "Oh, that lady that was here last time that was like helping with your kids." And he was like, "My wife?"
I
That's who was here. So,
love it.
yeah.
I love it. So, okay. So you've been married a short time, Moshe, right?
I've been married for 17 months. Yes.
Okay. And
But
Roy,
keep
how
in,
about you?
but keep in mind, I've been with my wife totally about 24 years.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah. So, and we met by accident.
Well, it usually happens that way. How about you, Roy?
Yeah, I got over 30 in.
Okay. So my wife and I have been married 30, no, 41 years. We've been together 46 years.
Yeah, I got the been together a little longer too, but I think you still got me beat. So
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I only got 7
7 years.
this time.
this time,
Well,
okay.
I'm on my second round.
Well, 34 the
Okay.
first
Well,
time.
wait. Since we're on this subject. So, um, I got divorced in like 1977, something like that. And my ex-wife was
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Correction.
wait, you want a divorce?
No,
So
at least you come with good benefits this time around, Bob.
really. So my wife was working in the same building that my future brother-in-law was working in. He's a dentist and she was a travel agent. So I would, when I go in for dental appointments, I'd stop in and see my ex-wife, And so finally, after several months, I said, screw you. I'm not calling on you anymore. We met because we liked each other, we fell in love, and then we screwed it up with a marriage. And so she started calling on me. So then I don't know how much later it was. Well, wait, let me tell this part of the story. So um, I'm I call on her. I go up to see my brother-in-law. He's drilling away in my mouth, and I start flailing my arms like this. Have you either one of you guys, any of you heard this story?
No, but I can visualize the scene because I was just that way recently
So
at the
so
dentist.
so so my brother-in-law is drilling away, and he goes, I'm flailing my arms like this, and he goes, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Did I hurt you?" And I said, "No, I just realized something. It's less painful coming to you than it is going out with your sister." I thought he was going to take that drill and drive it right through my
Yeah,
Ooh.
that was a risky
Ooh.
comment.
mouth. So several years later,
Bob, have you ever been told there's a time and a place to make certain comments?
yeah, but you know what? If they're funny, you can make them anytime. So several years later, we're double dating with my ex-wife and her new husband. Um, and we're in this comedy club, and the comedian says something really, really funny. And my ex-wife started choking on a potato, and she lodged it in her throat. So I went to give her the Heimlich maneuver because she was choking to death. And it didn't work. Well, my current wife teaches Heimlich maneuver, all this stuff. Um, she's a patient advocate now. And so she gives my ex-wife a thrust on her chest, and the potato shot out of her mouth, shoots, it flies across the stage right in front of the comedian. He never saw it. And I said, ex-wife saves, current wife saves ex-wife's life in case she wanted to give the husband back. That's all true story. You can't make that up,
Can't
right?
make that one up. Nope.
Karen. No, she's not here right now. She'll love that story again. Hearing, how I've only told that story about 1,000 times, maybe 2,000. Okay, so we're here to accomplish something today. What are we here to accomplish?
Support the veterans.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, we all do it in our separate ways.
Moshe, you're on mute.
I know what I was going to say is I really hope that Dennis chooses sometime in the future to have
Say that
Carrie.
again?
I'm serious when I said I hope Dennis has Carrie as a speaker one time in the future
Mm.
because listening to what she said today, I really look forward to hearing more about what she does and so forth. Because even though she's not a veteran herself, because of her involvement, she would be an ideal speaker for a future meeting.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. And what we'd like to do to all of you is to grow this group. I used to run another veterans group, but it was all face to face. And I used to get a huge amount of attendance, but it was typically through the holidays that we had it. Now, you know, knowing where my daughter is at with what she's explained to me about the vets, do you know how many vets there are in this country?
16 million.
16 million veterans. Okay. And there's 25 suicides, attempted suicides a day. So we know it's an issue. Now, the VA has done a much, much better job of working with veterans over this issue, but it's still not 100% there. And look, we owe it to these 16 million veterans and our all the current veterans, all the current enlisted people or military people for our freedom. That's the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
By the way, you're just talking about the veterans, but I'm also looking at the families of the veterans who have also
Oh,
sacrificed so that
good
they can
point.
do what
Good
they
point.
do. So
and
the
that's what,
numbers much larger, especially when you look at the
oh,
suicide
yeah.
attempts and what they have to go through as a family to deal with that.
Well, you know what Dennis does, right? Do you know what Dennis does, Schroeder?
Yes, I do, but Carrie may not.
Okay, so Dennis Schroeder is retired military, and he has a nonprofit that is a give back to veterans. Primarily, it was for veterans' families where the veteran had committed suicide.
Okay.
So, or died. Maybe it's died. I might have that a little bit wrong. So look, we owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to our military people because they're keeping our country free. Now, you believe that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Mm.
Good. I never know where people are today, in terms of their mentalities, but yeah, I think I mean, we just had an inauguration. We just experienced a new president in office. Time will tell whether or not he's liked and appreciated for who he is. But it still comes back to the veterans all the time.
Well, look what it's doing for the veterans. Those who were let go because they wouldn't get the COVID shot are now being able to come back and get retroactive pay. So that's going to help in multiple fronts.
Mhm.
First, it's going to
And
help with
that's
recruitment.
big.
It is big.
Recruitment's at an all-time low.
No, I'm saying it's going to help with recruitment because they won't have so
Yeah.
many people are coming back. And what's going to also do is because of a different policy by him, God willing, that will also increase recruitment because
You
the
bet.
veteran is going to have a different view by Americans as a result of the president who really takes that out. And the fact that he's looking to make a mark through his designee, who I think is supposed to be approved tonight or Sunday night to become to head the defense, which is Pete Hegseth,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what?
who's really an on the field type of veteran as opposed to a general who's behind the
Yeah.
scenes pushing paper.
And we
So
have such
I,
a friendly world.
yeah. So I know for the state of Colorado, Colorado missed recruitment for the military by 100,000 people. So I'm sure for other states, it's quite similar, and the numbers have like quite plummeted going into this. But have you ever heard of I think his name is Ray Willis. He's like the lead for the army on like Soldier and Family, and they basically break down the numbers of like everybody who's in the area. Um, he does a really great talk about like Soldier for Life. and like how that corresponds of like the civilian life and the military life as you transition, or whether you're going back in after being out, and like breaking down those numbers of what that realistically looks like to your community and like how it serves your country. Like
Yeah.
compiled everything. I hope that made sense. I was
Without
trying
Yeah.
to
playing,
Absolutely.
find the
without playing,
words.
without playing politics, when I look at Soldier for Life, I look at what's going on with New York with Daniel Penny. Here, he, took over a situation of a problem underneath the ground, and then of course they tried to accuse him of murder, but he was saving a lot of people's lives in the process.
Oh,
So
interesting.
soldiers are not soldiers just when they're in a field military battle. They
All
take
right.
that discipline with them wherever they go.
Do
There's
you?
also a major thing that like National Guard, any kind of guard, I should say, is not recognized
That's right.
because unless they're federally activated, anything that they're doing with the state is not
Yeah.
recognized when it comes to the final
I
end.
thought, I thought they can use that towards retirement if they've already served in the military, the time in the guard, in the
If they
reserves,
were,
You might be
in the
right.
reserves,
You might be
in,
well,
right.
in the
they have
reserves,
to be
they can
active.
count it towards retirement.
Yeah, active in reserve, but if you're just a National Guard without any kind of like prior time of reserve or active duty, unless you're federally activated for at
Mhm.
least I think 9 months, accumulated 9 months activated in
Okay.
National Guard, it does not count. And a lot of service members lose benefits because they don't know that fact.
Is that because the recruitment officer doesn't tell them that on their way out, or whoever they meet with on their way out? I forgot what you call that when you leave a company and they do an interview. Is that
So
because they weren't aware of it, or they just choose not to go that route?
I'm going to answer this with a story.
Okay.
There's a famous
Yay.
recruiter. He's not so much famous. He's more so internet famous. But he when he would recruit at high schools, and kids would come up and say, "I want to be a SEAL," or "I want to be a Green Beret," or "I want to be Delta." He'd say, "Sign up for 6 years in the Guard, drive a truck, and at the end, I'll drive you to the recruitment station to sign the papers to go there." And none of them ever realized because
But
unfortunately they didn't do their research. And so they get locked into this deal and this contract without realizing the full extent of what it is. Um, a lot of that comes down to like education. And I personally think that people who went with a recruiter and went with a family or a friend or someone who was already in the military have a lot better success rate of being like, this is what I
Sure.
want to do, this is the research, this is the MOS, as to someone who's in high school and is like, I just want to join the military to get out of a small town.
That's a good point.
Um,
yeah.
May I make a suggestion based on what you just said? One of the
yeah,
activities you may want to incorporate, if it's possible, is in areas where you have recruitment for high school students, whatever. They should have, I don't use the word competition, but have an event of what it takes to get into the different special units so the high school students can feel what it's like to be in those units and what it takes to get there. And they can
yeah.
measure their own physical stamina and abilities against what's required to get to be in those units. And that may help bring out more people from other areas to come to Colorado, for example, to go through that event. I don't know I don't know if there's a way of my contact at AAU left this world 4 years ago, and I miss him so much. But if he were alive, I probably would look to see if we could meld something with the AAU to come up with competitions that way to for athleticism as well as to serve in those units because that would be having some kind of competition I think would really bring out the best of those units and incorporate people to see what's realistic as well for themselves because it has to be highly disappointing to say this is where I want to be and then not be able to get into it and not have been realistic about their goals to begin with.
Well, and you also have to think people have specialties within every unit. So, I mean, there's always a medic. There's, when it comes down
Right.
to, I would assume like more specific groups would have some kind of doctor attached. So it's like they may be in that unit, but did they go through that same training? Do they have that same, um, do they have the same training, or are they there because they're a linguistic or because they're a medic or
Right.
because there's some kind of like radio tech. I'm not even sure if that's the right name, but I'm assuming you guys know what I mean by that.
Just
The
And so,
communication.
yeah, there's different ways. Well, isn't it like X-ray tech or something is in the military? Anyways, um, I'm thinking of radar from MASH.
Right.
yeah.
Um, but I mean,
Obviously,
there
if you're thinking radar, then you've seen the reruns of MASH and not the original series.
Yeah, yeah.
I own the collectors of MASH. I've seen
Right.
like every episode, probably about 20
Me too.
times.
Moshe, what about, why don't you tell Carrie what you're looking at doing, what you're trying to do?
I'm looking at doing research. In fact, I may have a shot with the Philadelphia Veterans Hospital, but what I'm trying to do is do research with veterans. We've had success anecdotally with PTSD. We do not solve the problem, but we can help them feel better for the moment. I'll give you an example. My back's hurting right now. I can take Tylenol for my back and I'll feel better for a while, but it won't solve the problem that's causing my back issues. So I wanted to use that example. So we can help with that, and we can help with other areas related to the military. And we're looking to research, especially with the military, because hopefully they can get peer-to-peer review with the other medical journals. So we've one of the other areas I'd like to work with in particular would be the Navy. And I'm mentioning not because Bob was in the Navy, but because many people are out to sea for long periods of time where they start to have issues because they've been away from home, their family, etc. So putting them on our system for 20 minutes may help them feel better and be able to go back to what they're supposed to be doing, as an example. But we have other areas we think that we can help with phantom pain. We don't know that for sure, but it would suggest that we could. And so we'd love to do research to see if we could be effective that way. Um, Phantom pain is caused because of the nerve ending from the limb that was removed. Now, can we help with that? I don't know. I can't look you in the eye and say we can do that, but we would like to do research in that area to see if we can be successful. So much of what we want to do in physical and occupational therapy, we'd love to work with the VA hospitals because they're ideal for that kind of research. But I would be just as readily interested in doing it with colleges or universities who are looking to do research in that area as well. If it helps you,
Yeah.
you're a student, your husband's a student now. So before COVID, because I have asthma, so I can't wear a mask that many hours. But before COVID, I used to go back to my university, which was more of a commuter school. For the last full week of classes, I would be there Tuesday through Thursday, parked in front of the library for students, faculty, and staff gratis for stress and anxiety relief. As I look at you right now, eye to eye, it's the only time in my life I was ever considered the cool guy. But the other area I'd like to get, we're working on getting to colleges for D1 because we can accelerate sports recovery. So I can't tell you how much I'd love to get involved with West Point and or Army Navy with the athletes to show how we can effectively help them. Because just as really we can help them, we can help soldiers coming back on a mission when they've been away for a while and they're sore and they're hurting everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about Phantom, but I've seen the research where you use mirror therapy so that you can see how the other hand moves to trick the
Mhm.
mind into thinking the other limb is still there with the mirror. Um, as for university in Colorado, I know Stu Elliott is a retired captain, Navy SEAL, and he's who runs the veterans alumni or veterans group for active students at CU. Rex Laceby is a retired captain in the Marines, and he's phenomenal. He runs the Veteran Alumni Center, and Rex is wonderful. He's one of my good friends. He ran for sheriff for Boulder County a couple years ago. But I'm very well connected with like the veterans area at CU Boulder, and CU also has a medical campus,
If
CU Anschutz.
If I'll tell you what, let's connect on LinkedIn. I have a paid Zoom account. I'll give you one other factor. I live in New Jersey, which means nothing to you out in Colorado.
Yeah.
The only reason I have a feeling for Colorado is because my wife lived there for a while during the time John Elway was the quarterback for the Broncos. And I know she's a John Elway fan. I said to her, I said, Kim, that's my wife's name today. But no, I said Kim, John Elway likes brunettes because my wife's a natural blonde. So, but
You're funny.
um, but in all seriousness, what I did was I put the local police department on for those who are interested about 10 years ago. And we did it as a way of saying thank you because if we had a problem in our area, they were there to, it was our way. In fact, for example, Labor Day and things like that, when things were busier, we had a 100-gallon, we had a 200-gallon fish tank and a 100-gallon fish tank. So we had to be at the office all the time. So we would keep the office open all night, letting the police know that if during hurricanes or whatever, or during storms, if they need to use our office, because we had to be there to watch in case something happened. They're welcome to come in. The coffee's in the front, take what you want and go. So I put them on our system, and so it can actually help with first response. The former chief of police gave me permission to use her name because we were trying to work with the SWAT team after a mission. I wasn't going to go on the SWAT. Unlike the medic who goes on the mission, I was not going on a SWAT mission. I was going to be there afterwards to help put them on after they've gone through a SWAT mission. So that's why I'm so excited about trying to work with the military and making a difference. My dad was a chaplain. You told me chaplain. My dad was a chaplain or a chaplain assistant during Korea. So I
Okay.
definitely want to get back. I'm sorry, Bob. I
No,
keep,
no, 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 not at all. Not at all. It's all fascinating stuff. So this, my wife just brought this home yesterday. We're in Palm Springs now, and my mother-in-law, who is over 100 years old, lives in West LA. So my wife was visiting her mother, and she was in the garage, and she pulled this thing
ah,
out. This
Major Robert Friedenthal,
that's my dad. That's not me. He
World
served
War
he
II
served
history.
in World War II. Yeah. And so he kept a diary of World War II. He trained guys for the Normandy invasion. And I think I've told this story. I've told it a million times. 80% of his troop was killed the first day because they landed by DC-3 pulling gliders. And so all these gliders crash landed behind enemy lines. My dad was running that group. 80% of his troop was killed the first day. The first day, 80%. That's a big number. So, all this stuff. And so he wrote a diary on the whole thing. And my wife just brought this home yesterday. This is like ESP, right? you know, why should this have all of a sudden showed up? But it's very, very apropos, very appropriate to our meeting today, because if you're not bringing the history of service stuff forward, then you're really not getting the essence of what it's like to be around veterans. That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
So, what do
Yeah,
you,
I know
go ahead.
Dennis isn't on here today, but him and I have been having trouble connecting. But like, how do you guys like market what's going on in these meetings to get more keynote speakers in?
Well, I'm a LinkedIn consultant, and I have a
Okay.
staff of people. So what we do is we have our people connect to veterans, and then we send out messages to come to our meetings, but very, very few people respond to it. We don't get a very big attendance, but Dennis and I are committed to it because of our history that we've had. And it means a lot, if you can't appreciate the trouble with veterans is they're kind of overlooked. They're taken for granted. And it's to me, well, Santa Papa John, he's all involved in this, and Moshe's heavily involved. Roy, I'm so glad that you're here because you
But
get the
but
essence of.
Bob, you're chipping away at the stone because all the conversations I've had, and you're seeing the exact same thing. A lot of people, a lot of veterans don't know about meetings. They don't know where the communication factor is. So that's what I'm doing with the website, just to get the word out and saying, hey, because everybody says in these meetings and other meetings that there's veterans involved, communication is a key component to a veteran's livelihood, because when they get alone, that's when they start thinking of the bad
we
things, the dumb
we
things.
send out somewhere around probably 1,000 invitations for this Zoom event each week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Right here. In fact, while you can chat for a second. I'm going to look up how many veterans I have in
Carrie,
my
The
please,
list.
network.
please look at the message I sent you if you have a chance directly.
Uh,
And in the meantime, I'm working with Patrick to see if I can find out both the VA hospital in Philadelphia, like many VA hospitals, have both long-term and short-term care facilities that are nearby. So I'm working to try to see if we can get our group meeting in a community room for those who are interested in attending. But it's not happening overnight. But as Santa just said, it's chipping away. So we're working on it. So just bear with me. But hopefully over time, we're going to try to do that with the Philadelphia group. And if that works out, maybe, Patrick, who himself is not a veteran, but his dad is, excuse me, will try to help bring that type of feature to other veteran facilities.
I'm personally have roughly 400 veterans that I'm directly connected to on my account on LinkedIn. So then if you take all the veterans between Dennis and myself, um,
I just connected Bob with a lady that has 8,000 veterans in her group, and she's in the UK. And they're running into the same problems in the UK as well.
Getting people involved.
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
communicating.
or the veterans are getting pushed to the side.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about like the marketing and the posting and like how the network works and the platforms and kind of like what does it look like for grants and funding. I just was curious. My brain kind of went that whole way. Um, so I
I'd love to
just
talk to you about it.
yeah.
I could do
Yeah, I'd
some
love to have a
research.
conversation with you as well, Carrie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we can set up like a meeting another time. I don't want to like hold you guys up if you have other things going on, but yeah,
Well,
Dennis and I have been
you made
missing
the
each
meeting today.
other.
You made the meeting today, so thank you so much, Carrie. Seriously, what you
Oh,
talked
thank
about,
you.
what you do. That's why I say I really hope you become a speaker for a meeting where we have other people as well, because
Yes,
I
please.
can't tell you how interesting you were, and I could listen to it again and probably pick up more out of it than than when I digested today.
There's a secret sauce behind all this. That's the key to it. And I've been doing marketing for umpteen thousand years. I've been doing LinkedIn marketing for well over 25, 30 years. And it's always interesting. Here, let me see how many veterans there are. Did I look that up? No, I
Yeah.
didn't look it up. I looked up.
No, you told us there's about 16 million veterans, and you're probably right on target.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That represents about 5% of the existing population, but we have less than 1% who serve in the military right now.
on
I think
LinkedIn,
that figure is going to increase, unfortunately.
there's 1,400,000 veterans on LinkedIn.
So the
Just
question,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say the question I have is there any, especially since you're a veteran and the level, I'm not trying to denigrate the level others have achieved as well, but because of your level in the military, do you think LinkedIn would cooperate with you in terms of greater outreach for this group on LinkedIn?
I don't know. I don't know. We'd
Carrie,
have,
no disrespect to your husband's achievements. I hope you don't take it that way. It
yeah.
wasn't meant that way at all. I promise you it wasn't. Nor to you, Roy. I know you served.
No, I laugh. Um, I laughed. I'm a nervous laugher. Sorry. But no, I think like a lot of like the marketing and posting is like target times and like when I would do media like for the garrison, it's like I took a lot of time to figure out what was the best time to post things to get people the most engaged. And that's how we got a lot of our like engagement to get more service members and their families involved in what was going on in the community is because I figured out that like after PT, a lot of service members went home to shower and change before like going home to like and getting their uniform on or like laying in their bed at the barracks. Lunchtime was also another really great time because we knew they were just sitting around there was no really engagement. Like they were required to take that time to step away, and then in the evenings between X hours, we were like, oh, they're home. Their spouse is taking a break, their spouse is online, they're online. And so we had that idea of like, this is how we got our key engagement. And I know social media is even more popular as it was when I was doing it. And so it's like, have there's this thing where it's like people post 100 times a day just to get attention in the algorithm to force people to see what they're doing.
Right,
And
right.
that's how they grow their followers and like engagement. But it's like it's ultimately like unrealistic. Like if you're in a business, you're just gonna push people away. And so I was just kind of like curious about like how all that works with you guys.
Let me ask you this. Who here is a veteran? Just me?
Yeah,
Interesting.
my
Interesting.
father was, but I'm not.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah.
were. I'm sorry. I thought you said you were. Excuse me. I didn't mean. I'm sorry.
And I found again when I went up for my uncle's funeral that, three veterans, grandma's three brothers were veterans. My mom's brother was a veteran. So, I do have veterans in my family, which just gives me more.
Well,
Um,
most of us have had somebody that's a veteran,
Yeah.
yeah,
you know.
But by the way, I've got it, Carrie. I got it. This is going to happen later on today, and Bob will appreciate this because he's Jewish. I'm going to be leaving at 3 o'clock to go to drive an hour and lead Sabbath services for seniors at a nursing home. I said because at the end of one of the prayers, we open up the door to welcome people to come in, and at that what they call the theater, but that's where the synagogue is actually. When I open up the door, it faces the rehab area. So a couple weeks ago when I did it and I started to chant the prayer at the end, they closed their doors all of a sudden. And so I went back to I was laughing as I went back to the people where I was leading services. And I said, was it something that I sung? So,
My
and
wife was just saying, by the way, my wife was just saying last night that she wants me to go to the VA for some additional meds and stuff that I might need, especially as you get older, you need more meds. So
yep.
is
we
that
shall
also when
see.
she doubles the policy on your life insurance?
No, she halved it. She figured that he's not worth
Yeah.
it.
By the way, bro, I'm referring to the L'Chadodi, just so you know what I'm talking about in the
Yeah.
service. So so I went back to him afterwards. I apologized. I said, "Look, I'm sorry if my singing was too loud." She goes, "Oh no, we closed it because we didn't want you to hear us. We don't be disrespectful to what you were doing."
Oh my God. That's pretty funny.
That was.
Well, listen, we're getting pretty close to the end of the hour. Anything insightful, anything that we should work on, anything that might help? Carrie, would you come back?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely I didn't realize that you guys did it every week
Wait.
and that's on me.
Yeah, I'd love to see what we could do to help you springboard what you're doing
Yeah, yeah.
because I got people that can do it for you, you know?
I have to leave for another point with Carrie. I did reach out to you. I hope, and let's see what we can do to make things work. And if something comes out of it, Bob, I can't thank you enough for being a conduit for all this.
You bet. Carrie, are you on LinkedIn?
I am. I think you and I
Are we
connected.
connected?
Yeah.
And to
Okay.
Pop, to Santa, and to Roy, let me say goodbye. Have a great weekend, and look forward
You guys
to
have a great weekend too.
interaction,
See you, Moshe.
Yeah,
different
thank
places.
you guys for participating in this because it does mean a lot. I put it to you very bluntly that my time in the service was it wasn't by choice. I enlisted because otherwise I would have been drafted, and I ended up going to NATO, so that all became luck of the draw, so to speak. But here I'll leave with this. In this group that I was in with NATO, I had 1 year of college. I was the least educated of all, including enlisted people, mostly enlisted people in the group. I was the least, there were PhDs, there were master's degrees, all that stuff, very select group of people. And it was interesting. It was interesting, just being with very, very intelligent people. And what you don't realize is the intellect that is in the military, both enlisted and
Point. Yeah.
officers, you know. So, and we owe a great deal of gratitude to our veterans. They a lot of them paid the ultimate price. So anyway, that's it.
Well, I'm on a mad mission, Bob, and I'm going to grow this website. I'm very dedicated, and now I've sent out messages. I'm going to get the first 100 people on there that provide services for free, and then my goal is to have 1,000 people on that list by the end of June.
Oh
So
wow, very cool.
I'm going
Very
to be
cool.
on a mad mission, and I'm going to be promoting the heck out of it because you guys tell me it's something that is needed for this country. So, my wife brought out another amazing example of, Steve's driving from, New Hampshire to Minnesota, and he gets to Chicago and he breaks down and he doesn't have much money, but he's a veteran. Who does he call on? Where does he go to get services to help him carry on his trip? You know, without a national list, without him knowing that there's some kind of veteran group or this kind of group or that kind of group where he's located, he can be pretty lost, and that can get pretty damaging pretty quickly.
My wife and I were in Arizona. My son lives in Scottsdale,
Yeah,
and I mentioned to everywhere that we went for breakfast, lunch, or dinner that I was a veteran. I did not pay for one single meal.
amazing.
It,
But
it
that's
really
good.
is amazing.
It is good. There are some people that really truly appreciate what you guys have allowed us to do in this
True.
country.
So true.
And then there's some people that don't give a damn, unfortunately. And
Yeah, but
and
that's,
you
I
know,
think that's more of the minority than
yeah, I believe
anything.
Yeah,
so too.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It is what
I,
it is.
yeah,
Okay, gang, I got to run. Good to
Yeah.
see
yeah.
Us
everybody.
too.
Thank you for a
Take care,
great
me
meeting.
too. All right,
Gary,
guys. It's been a great
um,
day. Have a great
here, I'm going
weekend.
to give you my phone number
Yeah.
and you can call me and then we can talk about next steps that we should take. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
310
310
736
736
5787.
5787. All right. 310 736 5787.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Call me and then we'll figure out next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Thanks for having me on, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd love to build up a little bit of a community here and have you speak.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Have a
Perfect.
good
Do
one.
you do you want me to call you tomorrow? When's a good time? I don't want to interrupt.
Uh, give me, so it's 11 o'clock here. Give me an hour.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We'll talk. Okay. Talk to you later.
Perfect. We'll see you.
Bye.